those most committed to making sure Social Security survives this battle intact is Congressman Dennis Kucinich, Democrat from Ohio, and I'm delighted to say he joins us now. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Recent polls show 68% of Americans and 68% of millionaires themselves favour raising taxes on the wealthy. Yet so far, all we've seen from Republicans is the Paul Ryan budget plan and at least one presidential candidate who thinks Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. Who are Republicans appealing to with that kind of message?
Well, I can tell you, for my own constituency, and I think for people across the country, Social Security is very important. Social Security didn't create the deficit. Social Security's problems, to the extent that they may have any long-term problems, can be solved by lifting the cap on the amount of money that's subject to Social Security taxation. So we have a fake crisis here with respect to Social Security. Now we have a real problem with respect to our economy. Got to get America back to work. That creates more tax revenue. We must do something about our trade deficit. We have to stop these wars, and we have to stop wasteful spending from the Department of Defense, which is spread out all over. I mean, it's not like we don't have places we can cut.
And yet Republicans refuse to even consider a balanced approach which might include raising revenues.
Well, I think we're looking at a whole new scenario. If this super committee doesn't come up with any viable solutions, which who knows, we have to just go back to where we are as a nation. We've got to get America back to work. That'll produce more tax revenues. We have to do something about this trade deficit, which is undermining our ability to be able to stand as a nation. We must stop these wars. We must stop the spending for wars. We must stop this far-flung military empire, which is wasting our money all over the globe. Start taking care of things here at home. I mean, that should be a bipartisan concern. America doesn't have to be limping across the globe as some weakened giant. We can regain our strength by focusing on rebuilding our economy here at home. That's what we ought to be doing.
You mentioned the super committee, and as you know, it's convened to tackle the debt. Remains at a stalemate with a Thanksgiving deadline looming. Your colleague, House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer, said today, and I'm quoting him, expectations for the success of the committee are low. So do you have any confidence in this super committee?
Well, the people of the United States of America elected 100 members to the Senate and 435 members to the House. They didn't vote for a super committee. The whole process is flawed. That's number one. Number two, we have an obligation as a government to get this country moving again financially. I mean, Americans have a right to expect that there's going to be jobs for all, health care for all, education for all, retirement security for all, and peace. And the leadership needs to come forward with a whole new discussion. By miring ourselves in this discussion about debt, we're losing the opportunity to talk about how we can create more wealth and how we can stop wasting money. And that's really where the discussion needs to go.
But, sir, just as Republicans refuse to countenance the idea of raising a cent in revenues, they would charge you criticism that you're not prepared to consider cuts in entitlements.
Well, listen. If someone works a lifetime and pays into a system, are they entitled to be able to get their money out at retirement time? You bet they are. Social Security is a covenant between the government and the people, and it's an intergenerational covenant. It's not a handout. People put the money in. They should be able to get it out. And I don't think that, I think when you start talking about things as though they're disconnected from a system that people have participated in for over 70 years, wrong direction. Let's reaffirm our commitment to each other as members, as common members of a nation. We need to pledge once again to each other lives, fortunes, sacred honor. We need to remember that this is a country where we're all in this together. We can't start separating ourselves, Democrats, Republicans, independents. We have to be Americans now and put Americans back to work and stop going into these wars all over the world and hold on to our money and use it to create jobs and create wealth here. We have to take a new approach because the approach that we're using right now is against the broad-based interests of the American people, will not create wealth, and will mire us in poverty as a nation.
I wish that your Republican colleagues in the House were listening to what you just said. But thanks to those Republicans redistricting in Ohio, you may find yourself running against Joe the Plumber, who became a household name for challenging President Obama during the 2008 campaign. What's your feeling about that possibility personally?
I represent a district that's concerned about jobs, health care, retirement security, the education of their children, holding on to their homes, and peace. And I'm going to continue to take that stand. There's been no decision made finally in Ohio about where the districts might be. So I don't have any last word on that. I can only tell you what I believe in, who I'm fighting for, and if given the chance, I'm going to keep doing that.
Congressman Dennis Kucinich, you keep doing that, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up, the day's top lines just ahead.